He's now down 7 minutes on the clock. He's down to a minute.
I wonder if Maxime has just made the pre-move pawn takes rook. And eventually Alireza decides not to go for it. What you said would be the most intuitive, instinctive decision that a player like Alireza would make. He jumps in with the knight to d4, but he had to do this about 4 minutes ago.
And now queen f1. And now the mistakes are going to come because you cannot physically calculate the volume of variations that you need to calculate given the time you have. Now, knight takes c5, Tanya, and MVL wastes 0 seconds playing this move. But if there's someone who's capable of pulling this off, if there's someone who you cannot underestimate in this situation, it is Alireza. And MVL cannot blitz out moves a mile a minute. He needs to calculate. And the computer is showing us the way. Knight c4.
He's got more than 7.5 minutes on the clock. He has enough time. All he needs to do is just calm down and not rush through. And that's what these top guys are so good at. They don't just play the clock. He knows he's done the hard part in the opening. The position itself is great. He just has to be precise. MVL taking his time. Knight c4 is the move that the computer is pointing at. Daniel, I'm trying to think what other alternatives can be on MVL's radar right now as a threat is on the board. Bishop takes bishop. You have to watch out for that. MVL pauses, finds the best move. What happens? Bishop takes knight. You take with the d pawn. You open up the queen central line. That knight on d4 will be attacked. No time to pick up the bishop on g5.
Responding to a threat with a threat. As you said, bishop takes g5 was the threat. MVL stays on top. I think we're going to get a trade, and then white can establish the knight on d4 with the move c3. The bigger problem that's lurking in the background is that white is down 2 pawns. The material count is what the lame people talk about, but eventually, if black gets the king to safety, that's going to be what the cool people talk about. And MVL has to find a way to get his king, ideally now, over to the queen side if he can get the queens off the board. Alireza.exe is frozen. It's not responding. And he needs to press Control Delete. He's down to 30 seconds. He's now trying to decide, does he want to take this knight or not?
He needs to make a move.
Insane.
It's going to be Alt F4 if he doesn't.
And blue screen of death. I mean, king c1 on the board. Okay. Now queen f6 is very precise. And that's a really nice move. Wow, hitting 2 of white's minor pieces. He'll find it.
Because it comes with the same idea. You want to attack that knight on d4. Once again, bishop takes bishop is the threat on the board. That h-pawn is pinned to that rook on h8. Queen f6 hits that bishop, hits that central knight. And after bishop takes bishop, you have the option to go queen takes knight, centralize your queen, and hit that g4 pawn and the b2 pawn with a big threat on the board.
It's not over. And I think Alireza's best hope right now is to eke out a draw. He needs to stop playing for the win. And if he can get the queens off the board and get this into some opposite colored bishop endgame, I've seen him do this before. He suddenly builds up a bunch of extra time. If he can get his clock stable at like 30 seconds and get it into an endgame that's easy to play, he gives himself a chance at least to make a draw, get this to the next game. Right now, queen f6, not the easiest move in the world, because you have to see, Tanya, that after queen takes d4, I don't have time to show this, white has the move bishop f6 with a fork. And black responds to the counter fork against white's queen on d2. You have to calculate that. It's easier said than done.
Also, after queen f6, knight takes bishop is not possible. Not only is the f4 bishop hanging, but the b2 pawn. And of course, Maxime finds it. This is incredible form by Maxime. We're seeing the best version of him here at the current Schlaps Masters.
But now we're seeing the best version of Alireza, and it's come about 9 minutes and 40 seconds after it should. He plays b3. This is just not the kind of endgame that he wants. He's still down 2 pawns. The knight is going to sink its teeth onto e3. Everything is collapsing.
And
yeah,
Daniel, you said that Alireza needs to stop playing for the win. I think Maxime is definitely playing for a win to try and wrap this match up in 3 games.
Oh, yeah. Knight g4 might wrap the match up right now. Knight g4 is the winning move. Wow.
And of course he finds it.
Total collapse by Firouzja. I mean, just crazy. And now Maxime should avoid taking the rook. Of course, he wasn't born yesterday. I mean, he's not going to take the rook and let Alireza's pawn promote. He's going to take the bishop and get a technically winning endgame with 5 minutes against 10 seconds.
Maxime Vachier-Lagrave in absolute beast mode. He wins against Magnus Carlsen yesterday, and today he's on the brink of wrapping this match up in 3 games. And Daniel, there's
Wow.
so much on the line on this winners final. Whoever wins this not only goes through to the grand final to fight for that golden ticket, but also confirms a spot into Division 1 of the next Champions Chess Tour event.
Just incredible. I mean, MVL's time management has been a source of pride and a source of his consistent success in these tournaments, but we're just not used to this lack of confidence in chaotic positions from Alireza. That's where he
2 seconds.
thrives. Not over yet. He's still trying, still kicking, still trying to make it as difficult as possible for Maxime. The question now for Black, when do you play the move E5? Okay, still a few accurate moves necessary, and don't fall asleep on this F7 pawn, right? Bishop H5 is what Alireza is hoping for.
Bishop E4 was a big threat.
Exactly.
Bishop H5, he wanted to get that bishop to E4, rook takes pawn, all tactics on the board, so forcing that bishop to D3, rook on F8, defends F7. I think your question, the E5, you start doing it, you do it now. Push those pawns down to the center of the board. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave has enough time to figure this out after E5, and he does it. King to E6 is also the other idea to get that king into defense. Daniel, I don't see Alireza surviving this with 2 seconds on the clock, let alone the 2 seconds on the clock.
It'll take a straight up one move blunder for Alireza to save this game. He's down to 2 seconds, and consummate professionalism by MVL. You just can't keep stressing it enough. They don't care how much time the opponent has. They will take as long as they need to calculate the win. Has he calculated the win, though? Still, as long as there is a pawn on G7, Tanya, there are chances. I don't care what else is on the board, how much time you have. If there is a pawn on G7, it's not over.
You have a point. That G7 pawn, it stops the rook.
It's over. As I said, when there's a pawn on G7, it's still over, right? That's what I said initially. And MVL wins.
Exactly. Those are exactly your words, Daniel. Alireza Firouzja gets flagged for the second time in this match, but it wasn't about the flagging. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, complete domination on the board.